Hello, and welcome to Patched In, a long-form series about building modular synthesizer patches from scratch. Feel free to patch along, or just hang out. Let's look at what we're doing. If I use a VCA, and I duplicate that and that. The main thing with the amplitude modulation is we're going to use one, in this case one modulator, oscillator, and one carrier, and we need to offset the modulator to be unipolar, and we can do that with one of these mixers here where we can generate a positive signal and mix that in with our incoming signal. And so we'll go and we'll make the modulator this like tealy color there. Yeah, send that over to there. And because if I just leave it as it is, the bipolar signal will only go up to about 50% on the VCA here. And that's not what we want. We want it to go up to full. And so we don't want this to be at max. We want it to be at 50 so that the positive negative 5 becomes 0 to 10. And for reference, we'll input our carrier wave into the scope here. So we have this. Let's set it to trigger, and we can see our waveform. With amplitude modulation, when I run a sine wave and a modulating sine wave, and I have the carrier modulated by the amplitude adjusted by the modulating signal, we're going to hear the sum, the difference, and the fundamental frequency, which is different than ring modulation, where I believe we only end up hearing the sum and the difference of the two frequencies brought together. So what I want to do is look at the scope, and yeah, so we got that. And now this one's interesting because they're both the same frequency, so we're getting a kind of funny shape there. Let's hear what that sounds like. That's pretty cool. But then we can adjust this, make some. Ooh, I like that. That's what amplitude modulation and frequency modulation make for some really nice movement. What I like to do with the amplitude is not necessarily use just the sine waves, but if we switch these to squares, we can create some stuff with a lot of harmonic content. And that's 526. That's really close to just double frequency here. And so let's do some quick maths. I got 261.63. If I double that, it's going to be 523.26, right? And so if I set my modulator to that, oh, that is not the right 5.26. But if we slightly detune this, I like. That's kind of nice. I want that sort of phasey, funny sound to be there longer. So what if we did... What would happen if this was like hard synced to the carrier? Oh, it's just gonna stay that way. Ooh, but a soft sync. And then I wonder what it would be like if we were also doing this to the modulator, like we had another one of these. Let's check that out. Okay, now that's cool. There's a lot of movement with just that modulation. Let's go liquid filter, and then we'll go into that. And we love a 4-pole. Let's hear it. I do really like this. And look at that gnarly waveform there. I'll change the color of that. Make it... Would it be interesting to have this have frequency modulation from one of these same modulators? What would that be like? I'm really liking how buzzy and sort of retro sci-fi this is. Ooh. I've been working on finalizing a collection of pieces. I have a number of them on cloud recordings, and then I have some of these old pieces that I think I originally released on YouTube in a different account as part of some like VCV Rack forum thing in 2018. And I recently uncovered those in my drive and I've been thinking about using some of them, but it also took me back to some patches where I wasn't using a set of sequencers as heavily. I found this old piece that is... all of the would-be sequencing is done via these looping attack and decay envelopes that are being modulated. The length of each attack and decay stage are being modified by some LFOs, and so they're creating repeated patterns in them, but they're not just like straight sequences like what I've been doing. And so part of what I wanted to do today was start playing around with some of that. I've made a voice that I generally like the sound of, and I'm going to duplicate it. And I like to work with a lot of similar sounds and approach it from like kind of a quartet or small ensemble of like a lot of the same instruments. So one thing we could do here to just get us started on that would be to shift the second one down 1 octave, and then I'll have... But let's see, so we have this, and then If we brought in this other one from there, that's pretty full and cool. Let me just solo the bass. Nice. So I have that. I need an envelope. I think I use this one from Bog Audio a lot. The Attack Decay. Does this one have a loop? It does. That's what we need. So then if we put that there and duplicate it, and we could use this output of the liquid filter, because it takes the output of the low pass 4-pole into a VCA, and that's controlled right here with this gain input. And so then we just get a shift while we're on there. So now we got go with clocked. Even if, how does this behave if I have a looping, but also with a sync trigger? Let's look at that on a scope. With the re-trigger off, it's kind of interesting what happens with the re-trigger on. That just locks it in because the length of it is such that it's just going to start over again during the decay stage. Okay, that gives us room to modify the attack and decay length and create interesting rhythms. Why not? This LFO is really cool. You set your main frequency, and then you're going to get 8 different phase related outputs where you can have them shifted by however much. And by default, they're set to every 45 degrees from the initial one. It's really handy, especially when you get into big patches where you want a lot of related modulation. And I think what's happening here is whatever we set the decay to on this envelope is going to be the max that it can go to. And then if we go below that down to 0 will be the fastest decay. And this would be a good place to have some mixed modulation stuff. Let's throw this up over here for a second. If we have one of these, and we have another scope, and so this is what we've created by offsetting this to be positive only, and then offsetting it further to be, well, reducing it and then offsetting it further to be from +5 to +10 as our range. And then if we had 2 of these LFOs, and then if we had this by a different clock here, and we had the decay modified by that, and then we heard it. Delete that for now. I'm actually liking now where this is since we've adjusted it more. Let's add some more layers to this. Okay, this is where it's time to zoom out. I often create these big stacks of my voices and kind of organize everything by like sequencing and control, and then the voices themselves. Maybe some of the modulation is built into that block, and then I move over to the processing. Maybe there's another modulation block that kind of floats around elsewhere. And so what we'll do is create a little offset with the quantizer to set each one of these to whatever note. Delay and reverb will fix everything. Always. Let's see here. Create a send there, create a return there, blah, blah, blah. Now what I'm thinking is that with this VCA, or we could use the level on the console here, we could do some more amplitude modulation that'll make it so this isn't as just like persistently in our face with all these layers here. And I kind of want to use these, but they're already very attached to our attack and decay there. Let's just start with that though. We'll make it its own color. Similarly, I think we could use some cutoff frequency modulation here. There's an attenuverter for the FM, but I need one for that too. What if there were more delays? Maybe we'll just use that. Let's zoom. And so we send in that, right? Is that? But then we can just flip the panning on them there. And on this one, we can do like a oh, and then we could automate the panning by doing it this way. That's fun. I mean, the cool thing is with the amplitude modulation as the core of our voice, each note is also going to be getting slightly different shapes from how it modulates. Like it's the same relationships for the most part, or entirely. But now is, let's see here, we have these, they sound unified while not sounding identical, which is nice. And I think the 4 layers is probably good if I go and add that chorusing effect. But then it'll be how, I wonder, could we change, how could we sequence notes without making really awkward jumps? Since we've built all of this out of LFOs and a looping envelope, trying to implement a sequencer at this point might be a little bit difficult. Okay, let's add the chorus stuff and then come back to it. So we have all these running and we'll fix up their input stuff here in a second, and we'll go in from lowest to highest there. Stop that. I do like those delays. The Chrono Blob was one that I really wanted in hardware for a long time, and so when they put it into VCV Rack, I was very excited. We're gonna grab that chorus. We're gonna put that on the end of this. We go into there, and we're gonna take stereo out of it. And so we're going to want these to be equal levels. And then what's the... Okay, so then let's copy that, paste it there. We'll just start with the same one on each of these. If we make some adjustments to the chorus so that each one's a little bit different, that'll help each layer stand on its own as well, even though they're gonna blend together quite a bit. Before I go, we're gonna come back to modulating the panning and some other stuff with all these, but I'm gonna set them into a space first. I really, really like the Soundstage reverb from VCV Rack. I use it quite a bit. And then go, just try to place our little AB stereo pair evenly across all this. I'm liking how this is feeling now. It doesn't really go anywhere, it's just kind of a static ambience though. Because the envelopes are looping, those are gonna keep doing their thing regardless, so I need a way to stop those. And if this was a normal sequence thing, they just wouldn't run unless they were receiving their trigger or gate signal. So what do we do here? If I have the run trigger a flip-flop and it opens up a gate, and then that opens up like an attack sustain release, I can gently bring all of these in instead of just having them sort of cut in and out. So let's build one of those real quick. So this is going to be like a little logic bank plus an envelope. And so with the flip-flop, when we reset it in, but then we send it the run signal, it flips to the other side there. As every time we start, it'll flip to that output, giving us a high signal, which then paired with an ASR, we can hold this open, which will give us an envelope that gently opens up. So then if we go and we duplicate that a couple times, we can do something. Let's see. Then we need VCAs. That one. I really like the standard VCA from VCV Rack. The UI is just fantastic. And so we'll disconnect these, connecting them to the output of the VCA that we're using. And then the envelope out of that will go in. And then this, which we'll use that for, will go there. Yeah, and so then they all open up. But based off the high signal from our flip-flop, we could use logic to determine when some of these other layers come in and out, which would build in some section stuff there. And so part of my goal here is to make this more spacious, where maybe there's times where we have all this stuff going on, but it doesn't start that way. And so if we use more of the flip-flops, otherwise a divide by 2 sort of thing here, we can use the end of cycle triggers on these to influence what plays on the other channels. And they could just like rotate which, like one influences the other. But I was thinking about doing another logic stage where we use an and combination between some of them to influence each one. But see, now we never get a long enough gate to really open these other layers. So what if we did and on all of them? We did or on this. It is less busy. We have achieved that. But now if I want to shift between notes, what can I do here? Let's look at something real quick. Okay. Oh gosh, no. So then we do this, so we move that over there. We put you back on top of that. Let's see here. We want A greater than B output as our clock. And then we will send this into there. And let's just try it first. Let's zoom in. So then if we're taking this and we take it into there, and when we go over to this, we can limit this, limit the range of the knob that's on here. If we put it at 10%, that's going to mean that the full range of this goes from 0 to 1 volt now instead of 0 to 2. How many steps do we want? Let's do 3. And there's no need to do this. I just like to turn them off to help me visually see what's happening. And then we will need to connect our run and reset. Oh my gosh. There we go. And so if we have that going, and we like what happens with this, which we should solo it to listen back to what happens. So we have our main here. And now what we do is we have 2 other channels of modulation that we could send to other parts of our voice and have that synchronized with the note changes. And so this is the same sequence where it goes like 1, 3, 5 basically. But since there's an offset amount on the quantizer, they're all going to play a different note depending on that. And some of them won't be quite the same? I don't know. Let's hear it back. Maybe I created horrible noise. But I don't think we need as big of a jump probably on this dude down here. Something that could be fun would be playing with the resonance on each step. But now that we have the quantized changes there, we probably want to put that slew after it. Whoop. Nyarl. That'll cut out of some of the like major jumps that we make too. I don't know if I like that though. Just kind of have to listen and see how these times work. And now I want one for the CV that's changing the, what do you call it? The resonance. So if we do this way, the resonance change matches the note change. I may even slow it down some more on these. Like if we made it twice as long. That'll mean that the resonance increases gradually as the note goes on. See, now we're getting close to something that I really enjoy and could shape some more into a composition. We still haven't even gotten to some of this panning movement stuff. I'm gonna duplicate this and make you be aligned there. We'll make you be aligned right there. And then since you're going to be part of the panning thing, we'll make you be aligned right there. So we have these, and we could set them, we're going to want them to be probably generally a bit faster. But from here we can take, Well, we could create 8 different mixtures of these. So let's see, we had set it up to launch a certain way. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how it launches, and then we will wrap it up. And then one other thing we could play with is we could play with the delay time on each left and right side there. And if we did that just based off some of these. And to conclude this episode of Patched In, let's listen to the current iteration of our work. Thanks for being here. I look forward to hearing you bleep and bloop.